Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Curtain. I'm Carly. I'm going to be your moderator for today. If you're watching with us live, welcome, and we would love to see you participate by sending any questions and comments you have into our chat down below. We'll try to get to as many as we can today. If you're watching with us after hours, we would love to hear your feedback. You can send any comments on the video down below, or you can also email us at info@majestictheater.com. And lastly, if programming like this is something that you value and you'd like to see it continue, head over to majestictheater.com and maybe give us a donation. But without further ado, we'd love to welcome Danny and Liz. Hey, guys.
Hey there.
Hey, Carly.
Hey, folks. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Curtain at the Majestic. Quick note, my guest next week, Stuart Gamble, who's probably will confirm that, but I think he's done more shows at the Majestic than any other actor around. But I'm pretty sure about that. So you'll of course recognize him for sure. Hi, Liz.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. Surviving,
Surviving, that's what we're doing, right, these days?
Yeah.
So, you and I have quite an interesting history for sure. But let's begin. Where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in South Hadley, Mass, and I actually spent a lot of time in Holyoke, Mass, because I went to school there. I went to Blessed Sacrament School. It's kind of funny. I have a brother. I have an older brother, but we're 10 years apart. So I feel like a lot of times that I was sort of an only child growing up, which lent a lot to, pretending and playing by myself and making up stories and that sort of stuff, which, goes right into this crazy business that I'm in here.
Yeah, right. Well, we'll certainly get into the crazy business for sure. But you and I first met at the Williston, Northampton school. I mean, I had started there, just started there as a production manager, and you were a 10th grader. You were just starting 10th grade there. Now, how did it happen that you came to Williston as opposed to South Hadley High School or whatever, or what have you?
Right. Well, I was, like I said, I was going to Blessed Sacrament, and usually after Blessed Sacrament, a lot of the kids went to Holyoke Catholic High School, and which I did for a year. And, I have to admit, I did very well in terms of academics and such, but I don't know, it wasn't a great fit for me. And that summer, between my freshman and sophomore year, my mom was like, there's this summer creative writing workshops at Williston, Northampton School in East Hampton. And would you be interested in doing that? And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds good. I went along with everything. I was like, yeah, that sounds interesting. Sure. So I did that. And I was very fortunate and lucky that my parents, I was able to be signed up for something like that. And I met a ton of international students and other friends. They're like lifelong friends now. And there I met a bunch of teachers that, were working at Williston, and they were part of this summer program. And one of them was Ellis Baker, who you know very well, too. Mm-hmm. And he was the head of the theater program, or the head theater teacher at Williston. And he had a theater class within that summer program. And he had said to me at one point, he said, have you ever thought about going to Williston? And I was, I'm a kid. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if my parents can afford it. I don't know. And, I think he probably talked to my parents, and he knew that I really enjoyed that summer experience. So before I knew it, I was applying, and sort of the rest is history. I thankfully got in as a day student and spent the next 3 years there. And I mean, honestly, it was, it's one of those experiences that I know a lot of people are like, oh, high school, gosh, I would never go back. And that's true. I probably would never go back myself. But I did have sort of a charmed high school experience where the students that I was with and the teachers that I had at that time were just so incredibly supportive. And I also was so lucky because, as you remember, the theater, well, this is not a lucky thing, but the theater had this bizarre spontaneous combustion that happened at the Williston Theater and was caught on fire the year before I got there.
The year before, yeah.
Yeah.
It was being restored that first year. Did we get it open that first year?
I think, yeah, we did, because I remember the fall, Mr. Baker, EB, decided to do scenes in the chapel for the fall while it was being renovated. And then in that spring, he did scenes from an execution.
Right. In the newly renovated theater. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and that whole experience, and like you said, you were the production manager and you were also the technical director. And let's just say Liz was not a very sporty kid. And we were required to take sports at Williston. And I remember, oh, wait, in the wintertime, there's this thing called theater tech. That sounds like my bag.
in lieu of sports. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember doing that. And I think that's sort of how I got, introduced to you. I remember very distinctly the team of like my friend Maura and Sherry, lifelong friends. And we were in the basement of like the old gym.
Yeah.
Cleaning Lecos, lighting instruments.
Cleaning old lighting instruments that had been through the fire and trying to see if we could rehab them. And, but they were covered with soot and all kinds of stuff. And the cabling and, rewiring cabling. And
yeah, that was my first. I mean, I was so lucky and fortunate. I mean, to have that experience in high school, to be able to see a renovation of a theater, really, I got to be hands-on with lighting, set, all different kinds of equipment. I think a lot of young people don't really know what backstage, like stage management and producing and design, that's an available possible profession. And being introduced to that at the high school level was really, wonderful that all of us got to experience that. And I think very much sort of sealed the deal that I wanted to do that going forward in my life.
Yeah. So, and coincidentally, while the Williston Theater was being renovated and brought back to life, the Majestic Theater was being renovated, and I forget the timeline, but I know there's an overlap in the timeline when both things were sort of happening simultaneously. Was there a summer stage that first year? Do you recall?
There was a summer. So like I said, I went to the creative writing, whatever the workshops were that first year. So my sophomore I think so. I think now you're having me question it, but I thought so. I thought from sophomore to junior year there was a summer camp. I can't quite remember though. I think it was. I think so.
Well, I do remember that. Well, there was a couple years of summer stage, right?
Yeah, I mean, there were 2 that I attended, and that was, I think it was junior to senior, and then senior to college, and they had sort of switched over the writing workshops to this sort of summer camp, and there were students from all over, mostly the U.S., not as many international students, but and it was our own little summer stock of okay, right. Kids, we're gonna make the costumes and make the set and learn the lines and be in the shows and do acting classes, and all of that, which again was a great experience. And I had another time when we had lifelong friends, and I actually did some acting, which I am, to tell everybody at home, I am not an actor. I do not act.
I think we might have a picture. Do we have a photograph there, Carly?
Which?
Well, there's one.
Lovely one.
So this one is definitely the one to show, because it not only has myself looking through the faux camera there, but one Danny Ian right next to that hamless house.
Oops.
Yeah, that was Peter and the Wolf and Friends by Anton Dudley during the summer, and we were the 3 little pigs.
3 little pigs. We're missing a pig there.
No, there's 3. Oh yeah, I don't know who that. I can't remember her name.
Oh, there's the other
she's
one.
There.
Yeah.
But we were kind of like stereotypical, like Chicago gangster types. Was the concept, I think, there. Everyone at home, snap that picture so that you can save it. Oh gosh, there you go. So yes, I was on stage with Danny Eaton, everyone.
There's another one from Agnes of God. I think we have that picture too, don't we?
Which one is that, Liz? You gotta help me out here.
Yeah, that is the one where I am dressed as Mother Superior. There were
yes, of course.
In the yes.
Yeah, she's typecast there. Yeah.
Typecast, yes. I remember I went to Bless the Sacrament, so.
Yeah, there you go. And that looks like my son Keller, doesn't it? But it's not.
That's you.
It's me with hair.
Yeah, that's me as a nun. Oh gosh, good times. I have to admit that I love that show, and I thought it was a really great production for the fact that, Abby is a professional actor in the middle there, but Chalet and myself were young students, and there I am playing Mother Superior. But I had not been in a play where I had so many lines. And I know you ask people, you ask the actors, Danny, like, how do you learn all those lines? And let me tell you, I learned that I do not want to be an actor and have to learn all those lines. I was not, I don't know. What I realized is that there were a lot of people around me who were really good at acting, and I was like, So I just thought, you know what? I think that I will try to lend my skills to other parts of theater.
But they were valuable experiences for you. I do believe.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because you ended up directing one show anyway that I recall at Williston, and then moving on to your college career. And at what point during Williston Did I drag you down to the Majestic while it was being done or being worked on? Must have been
Yeah.
during the summer or something, right? Or
Well, so before that, before the Majestic Theater as we know it today
oh,
existed,
that's right.
I think it was in my sophomore year, in the middle of my sophomore year, you had said, "Hey, I'm looking for some people to assistant stage manage and do some set changes for this show that I'm doing. I have this company, the Theater Project." And I was like, "Oh, all right." I always tell people that if you're interested in doing theater, just do it all, because you never know where it's going to lead to, right? So I then said to my mom, can you please drive me to this? So I want to be in it. And she did. And there was a few other students from Williston that you had asked. And so we did, the stage. We were like the stage crew. We would change the set. And it was in a basement. No, it was in a rectory, wasn't it?
In the church hall, yeah.
Church hall.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of my first experience at the Theater Project, which was to become at the Majestic. Actually, I think we have a picture of that too, Carly, if you want to check that one out, because that picture features Stuart Gamble, who is your guest for next week.
Yeah, he's in that. That was his first role with me.
Yeah, the baby dance. Oh, well, actually, that's Winter's Tale. And there is
Gamble there.
Yep. Yeah, that's the show that I directed at the Majestic, which once I went to Hampshire College after Williston, I had the good fortune of I was very interested in directing at that point in my life, and you had said, "Oh, would you be interested in directing A Winter's Tale?" And that was sort of an old, oh gosh, again, I had amazing experience that I got to go to London while I was at Williston. They had a theater trip during the January time off or whatever, and you were one of the chaperones, I remember, with EB. And we saw a production of A Winter's Tale in Oxford. And it was phenomenal, with the exception of the bear.
Act 4, get eaten by a bear.
But I have to admit that production was excellent. And also I was young, but I just remember seeing young people, and of course, well, we're in Oxford, but still they were very, very masterful in terms of the language, and it was a great story, and it was very simplistic set. Like, there was no set really. And I think you had a series at the Majestic called the Actor Series.
Right.
And you had chosen that as one of the Actor Series. And so, yeah, I had the great opportunity of doing that. And the cast was amazing. It was a very interesting cast where there were very seasoned professionals. I remember Janine Haas. She was my lifeblood, I'd say, through that whole experience, because I really was a kid. I was in college, and as much as I studied the script and looked up everything I could, and and here I am with so many people in a cast, and many of them are adults and professionals, and some of them I've known for years, but I've been working with at the Majestic. So, she's the type of person where she could be intimidating because she's so talented, but she's so open and giving. And her performance of Paulina was phenomenal. But in addition to that, she was always so helpful to me and to all the other actors who, maybe were watching her and getting some pointers as they watched her, and then thinking, Hey, Janine, could you help me on these couple of lines here? So I'm very grateful to her on that.
Yeah, yeah. And that was while you were at Hampshire?
That was while I was at Hampshire. Yeah, I had gone in there wanting to be a theater student, a directing student, and I had been doing some stage management too, and also I definitely, was working at the Majestic. I think throughout my like sophomore to senior year there, stage managing and such, and then I also in the summertime had started interning at Berkshire Theater Festival in
Right.
Stockbridge with Kate McGuire. She was the artistic director CEO now of Berkshire Theater Group. And yeah, so I got, and I started off as an assistant stage or intern my first summer there. And then my second summer, I was interested in assistant directing. And thankfully, they had found a place for me to assist on a couple of shows. And I have to say that was probably the time when, again, I realized, I don't know if directing is where I want to be. I certainly enjoy directing, but when I had a realization of the fact that directors, just like actors, have to really promote themselves and look for that next job, unless you're so lucky to end up at a company where you might be directing every season.
Right.
That it was. I was like, that's. I don't think that's for me. But I really liked big picture. I love the detail, but I also like the big picture, right? So I was lucky enough that while I was working as an assistant director, and I was working under Eric Hill at Berkshire Theater, and he's married to Kate McGuire, and I guess I was having my exit interview, and I would usually have the exit interview with the person who had hired me, who was the stage man or the production manager at the time. But all of a sudden I heard, you're having your exit interview with Kate McGuire. And I said, oh, that's weird. Why is that? And she had, she asked me like, oh, how was the summer and so forth. And then said, have you ever been interested in learning about theater art administration? And I was like, oh, well, what do you mean? And she's like, like putting on the show, producing the show, dealing with getting the rights and the royalties for shows, which I knew about from, working at the Majestic and you doing that, and selecting a season and dealing with casting and then giving offers out and doing the contracts. And I'm like, oh gosh, I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, I guess I would be interested in doing something like that. So the next summer I came back as her assistant. Actually, I was one of two individuals who assisted her, and I started just watching what she did and learning from that.
Yeah, those are all the little details that go into forming the big picture.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing that I love so much about, I mean, there's lots of things I love about theater, but one of the things is the people, right? Between the people, not just the actors, I love the actors too, but all the people who are backstage, all the people who are doing the designs, doing all the technical work, building the sets, people at the box office, individuals who are dealing with the paperwork, all the way down to taxation and all those fun things to deal with. And you really grow to rely on one another. You become a family, and you learn to depend on one another. You learn, oh, I'm not that great at this, but that person is, and they need to be on our team so that we can accomplish that to the best of our abilities. Yeah, it's, it was an eye-opening experience to have a realization of all those, all the work that was happening even before you got to the first rehearsal.
Sure, yeah. Never mind opening night or the performances.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I do try and impress on our audiences. They're generally in to the Majestic for 2.5 hours or something. Typical show, right? But and part of this whole behind the curtain and all these online programs is hopefully they'll begin to get a sense of all of those little things that you're talking about, the negotiations, the contracts, the licenses, and the rehearsals and the casting, and all of the hundreds of things that go on, and hundreds and hours spent just to be able to give them those 2.5 hours.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
it's true. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of detail work. I mean, a lot of things are a lot of work, right?
yeah.
But it's the type of thing where I don't know what it is. I mean, maybe I'm biased. Of course I'm biased. I've been living in theater, I feel like, since I was young. But there's just this sense from people that yes, it's a job, and it's a job to get done, but it's also an incredibly inspiring of where everyone is coming from, knowing that the end goal is to bring a story onto the stage, and that it's going to bring that story to an audience who may not be privy to this kind of a story, or put themselves in this person's shoes. The thing about theater, and it's so upsetting that theater's not happening right now that much, although I did see Berkshire theater group's Godspell, so there is some theater happening, very, very little, but it's a lot about empathy. And I always tell people, like, of course theater's fun and it's entertaining and it's joyous and all of those things, but at the same time there's also drama and intrigue and all the things, or and things that you might not even want to look at, that you're not, maybe I'm not interested in that, so I'm not going to go see that. But then you go and see it and you're like, I never thought about that. I never looked through that in that perspective.
Right.
So I feel, I really feel for I feel for everybody right now, but just being in the world that I am, that I have a lot of friends that are in theater and in the arts, and it's a trying time anyway, never mind a pandemic, to keep a career in the arts. So, doing the best we all can to hopefully make sure that the government supports the arts in the future, as well as those individuals and companies that can, is so important in this precarious time.
Yeah. So how long were you at Berkshire Theater Festival?
I was there as a associate producer. Well, I first started as like Kate's assistant, and then that was like in, oh gosh, I can't even remember, but I stayed going back to this each summer as her assistant until 2004. And at the same time, as you may remember, Danny Eaton, you gave me my first job out of college. I was the production stage manager from September to May doing that at the Majestic Theater, while in the summertime I would go back and I'd work for Berkshire Theater, and that was after college. And then in 2004, my very good friend Jason and I decided that we were going to take the leap and go to New York City and try to make it in theater there. And so we did that. I was there for 2 years. I did not do theater. I did temp work at a financial firm, and so did he. But
well, Jason now is a Broadway stage manager. So,
he is. He is.
Yeah. That's cool. But I think I sort of recall you were kind of joking about this working this temp job for this financial company or whatever, but you were making like a boatload of money, and and you weren't used to that. So.
No, I wasn't. And it's so weird. Like temp jobs, they're the thing of the past. They don't. Every job is like a temp job now, in a way.
Yeah.
Even pre-COVID. So I was doing that. I was doing all these odd jobs to like make rent because I was temping. But then at the financial firm, a position opened, and they offered me a full-time position. And of course, I get in there and I like looked at the contract, and my eyes bugged out. I'm like, what? Like, I had no concept of this kind of money. I have to admit, I was very lucky that all through college I worked, but most of my money came from working in theater. So I got by with, being able to fill my gas tank and eat. And of course, thank you to my parents who were, dealing with college and stuff. But even after college, I don't know how, but I was able to support myself between all of these different Majestic Theater, Berkshire Theater, going back and forth. So when I got to New York, and, like I said, I was very broke. And then getting this full-time job, I couldn't believe it. And I had a nice time there, and I met some very lovely people, but my heart just wasn't in it. And I was like, what am I doing here? Like, why? It didn't click with me. And so
I remember having pretty specific conversations with you at one point, sort of like toward the end, because you were like, you didn't want to be there, but you were like all over the map. I don't know what I'm going to do, and I think I was trying to convince you to start a theater company.
Yeah, New York, probably, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's because I really wanted to stay in New York, because I had always loved New York, and I liked city living. I liked being among artists and in the theater. And of course, I wasn't doing any theater. I was going to see a lot. I was seeing a lot of free theater at the time. But I have to admit, Kate McGuire called me up and said, Liz, we figured out how you could come back and be full-time. And I really was like, oh gosh, I'm going to leave New York City. Like, is this it? Like, I'm going to leave the city. And I did. And I have to admit, it was probably the best decision to do that, because I got such an education. I came back. I became the associate producer. Kate had me in her office. She was talking to agents. I was absorbing all of that. And she would be like, okay, now you do it. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, you trust me to do that? I was young, 26 years old. And she's like, yeah, you can do it. And I'm like, okay. So I started doing it, and, dealing with talking to actors, securing housing. And in 2010, Berkshire Theater and the Colonial Theater, which was mainly a presenting house in Pittsfield, merged together. And that was huge. And I had kind of been thinking about going to grad school at that point in time for arts administration. And Kate was like, you could go to grad school, Liz, or you could be here and be part of this merger, and you will be a large part of it. And that will be your grad school. And I said, okay, I'll stay. And it was the best decision I ever made. I was so happy. I mean, I was the general manager, and I met, again, it was a tough experience of doing that merger. But it was, just so much more responsibility, and I learned so much for 5 years, I was the general manager there until I left in 2015.
So what prompted that merger? How did that all come about?
Well, if you remember,
obviously I don't.
Oh, well, you'll remember the economy took a dive. The bubble burst, and which is sort of ironic because I was working for Neuberger Berman, which is a Lehman Brother company. And, it was all these bad mortgages and such. And I mean, I wasn't privy to all that, but it ended up being, I don't know what ended up financially, we were in a recession. So a lot of theaters were having a very difficult time. And a lot of company sponsorship and such was going away. And I remember Berkshire Theater was in an okay place at that time, but it was still sort of rocky. And I think there was just interest from the two boards talking and trying to figure out, talking to all different culturals in the Berkshires about how they could help one another and continue on. And I think it resulted out of that. And
the Colonial was probably in more financial trouble.
Yeah,
than BTF was.
Yeah, I think that it was a more of a a mutual decision between the two boards in order to be able to come together, because Berkshire Theater was a producing side, while Colonial Theater was a presenting side. And the difference between that is, for producing, that's what you do. You do some presenting of music and such, but for theater, it's mainly, from the ground up. The artistic director picks the shows, you get the rights, all of that sort of stuff. You pick the casts. While presenting, it's a package. Somebody already did the show, somebody already put together the musical entertainment, and it's one contract that you just sign off on, and you're like, okay, I'm going to have you come at this date and time at the theater. So they did different things. It was more of an expansion of coming together and having more space to then do the producing and having more space to then do the presenting. And that itself was an education for me, going into the presenting realm, because I had not really done that until that time.
So did Berkshire Theater Festival end up producing at the Colonial, and then vice versa? Were they doing presenting things up in Stockbridge?
Yeah, not as much presenting in Stockbridge. It was more presenting at the Colonial, because, I mean, it varied. But in terms of presenting, you want to have as many seats as possible in terms of, making the money and covering your costs and such. But there was some things that got presented, down at the Unicorn, because during the off season, because the main stage doesn't have heat or anything like that. So it was a summer stock, originally. Now all year through. But yes, we then went Berkshire Theater and their producing way went over to the Colonial, and we did a number. I think that first summer we did the Who's Tommy with Equity Actors, and we worked with Equity figuring out, okay, what is the stage category, and yeah, we hit the ground running for sure the summer of 2011.
Yeah. So now you're at BAM, the Brooklyn Academy of Music, and what do you do there? And what prompted you to leave Berkshire Theater Festival, or theater group now, right? Berkshire Theater
Yep.
Group, and move back to New York and get a job with BAM?
Yeah, I already knew that I really wanted to go back to New York. I felt I felt that I had learned a lot from working at Berkshire Theater, and I was, I was very, I put my whole heart and soul into it, and my now husband, who wasn't my husband at the time, he had also had an opportunity to go to New York to work in TV and film. He had an IATSE card for New England, but he was trying to get an IATSE card for New York because there was so much work happening at that time. And so he went to New York, and so I was still at Berkshire Theater, and I said, you go check that out. He had an opportunity of a place to stay, and if it works, then I'll be able maybe to join you. And so he did, and I would go down to visit, and he'd come back to the Berkshires to visit. And I remember I'd visit, and he was living in Brooklyn, and we'd walk past BAM, and he would say, this is where you're going to work. You're going to work at you're going to work at BAM. You're going to work at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. And I was like, oh, that's really nice of you to say, but let's not get my hopes up here. I knew that I really did want to work in nonprofit and not commercial theater. I wanted to work someplace that not only produced and presented, but I also wanted to work someplace that had community ties and community connection. And I mean, BAM was sort of a dream. And so it was the beginning of 2015, and my dear husband kept sending me links. Apply for this job at BAM. And so I did, even though I was like torn, because I was like, oh, I don't want to leave Berkshire Theater, but I do, but I don't. And, playing that game again. And so I did, I applied, and I didn't get the first position I applied for. I didn't get called in. I think I was kind of on the latter end of applying. And then another job came along, and I applied for that, and I got one interview, and I was like, I don't know about that. And then I got a second interview, and I'm like, I haven't heard from them. I don't think anything's going to happen. And then I got a third interview, and then I got the job, and I couldn't believe it. So, and the job was working in the general management department. Brooklyn Academy of Music it's a very large performing arts venue. It has 3 main spaces, but a lot of other small performing arts spaces within the campus. And I was mainly working with budgets and the fiscal side of the shows that were coming through. And it was mainly presented shows. They do all genres. So theater, dance, performance art. I don't even know. They don't really call it performance art anymore, but all these different genres, which also was an education for me. I had very much dealt in theater. So it was lovely, watching all of these really phenomenal artists, international artists, Brooklyn-based artists. It was really eye-opening for me. And as time progressed there, I've been there for 5 years now. I am the director of budgets and contracts in the general management division. And essentially, I'm the person that when the curator or the artistic director has an idea, or the programmers go, hey, maybe we can do this show. They'll sort of talk to the company and see, oh, well, is this something we want to do? And then they'll turn the information over to me, and I'll create a budget.
Yeah.
To see if it's viable financially.
I kind of do remember, when you were at the Berkshire Theater group, it became the group, I keep want to say festival, right?
Yeah, I know.
But toward the end there, I mean, I remember you feeling really kind of overwhelmed because there was so much stuff that that you were you had to deal with, and when you got down to BAM, it was very kind of much more singularly focused, so
yeah,
like a straight up job almost,
Yeah, no, that's very true. I mean, for anybody I think who has done theater in their life, I think a lot of people do get very invested, and can, sometimes you can lose yourself a little bit. That it's a lot for, people are depending on you. So you feel very dedicated, and that you need to get this done, or you need to do this as well as possible so that the audience has this great experience, or the actors that come to Berkshire Theater, the Majestic, have a great experience, and that they want to come back and be part of the family. So, that it takes a lot out of everyone. I mean, I'm sure you can appreciate this, and I consider you one of my mentors, and Ellis Baker, of course, from Williston, and Kate McGuire from
Sure.
Berkshire Theater. And the thing about all three of you is you are workers. You do a lot of work, and you do everything. And I always felt like, oh, that's what I should do. That's what makes other people say, oh, that person, not only that they care that I'm participating in this, and also just spinning all the plates of making sure it can happen.
Yeah.
So
well, I can say that very same work ethic, if I had a reason to take you under my wing, as it were, back in 10th grade in Williston, it's because I recognized in you that work ethic,
Aw,
Yeah.
Danny.
Well, no,
That's so nice.
That's not, I mean, I don't mean that as a compliment either, right? Well, it is a compliment, but, I mean it more as just really a fact,
Yeah.
And even then, I mean, for someone who's at 10th grade in high school, that's kind of a rarity, and I think you never really got away from that, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, thank you. I mean, I I I try very hard to, like, do the best I can, and make sure everyone feels like they're having, I want to make sure people are having the time that they should be having, whether they're the actor or the audience or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's funny you should say that, because, now going over to BAM, I did feel like it was more of a 9 to 5 type job, although I did see all the shows, and you do get, involved in the evening performances and such. And it's a larger institution. But, even during this time of COVID, I'm very, very blessed. I still have a job. I am working from home, and it's a lot of looking at how can we come back, and just trying to figure out all those different things, from people walking through the door and what the numbers look like, and what's the future of theater going to look like. And even though I might not be, getting a call in the middle of the night, oh, the fire alarm's going off, Liz, I don't get that. But,
Right.
it feels there's a lot of weight, in trying to figure out, I mean, we don't have a lot of control. Obviously, a lot of the control is with the state and the city. But, really trying to work hard to make it something, what can happen, and what can, financially happen in the future for audiences and artists, and for that matter, everybody who's working at BAM.
Right. Hey, we have a couple. Chris Thompson says, "Hi, Liz.
Hello.
Did you do any theater at Blessed Sacrament? Because the principal there, Sister Loretta, loved theater." I don't know if you know Sister Loretta.
I don't think Sister Loretta was the principal when I was there. I think it was Sister Louise Thompson. Thomas. I think Sister Louise.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I did do some theater. Oh my God forbid I have some of those pictures. But
And a little message there from Todd says, "Hi, Liz. Take care and stay safe."
Thanks, Todd.
So, we have a tentative plan in place to reopen the Majestic in January, on January 9th, to be specific. We don't really know if that's going to happen or not, because, a lot of other things have to happen before that. I mean, Charlie Baker, the governor, has to, or the state has to get to phase 4, number one, and then Actors Equity has to approve the facility for before their members can come back to work. But I'm just wondering, so does BAM have a sort of tentative plan in place for January or whenever, or that?
Yeah, so they usually have a festival in September, Next Wave Festival, and that's sort of how it is, how what's usually going on, which is a very fast pace. Different shows. There could be 3 shows happening within 1 week, going to from October until December. And then the spring is usually longer runs. And then it's been changing up recently, and they've been doing, we actually produced a show last year, Medea, which was very fun to produce a show, a theater show, and to work on that, because I hadn't done it in a while. They're looking at a lot of different models of what could potentially happen in the months to come. But as you said, very much at bay from the state and the city, and what's going to happen here with COVID, and is there going to be, is it going to come back, and not just like a flare up, but like, you know, a real bad situation. I mean, New York was the epicenter of it all.
Sure.
In the very beginning for the U.S. Back in March and into May there was a very depressing and sad time here. A sad time for many across the globe, but you know, it was very trying, and I think that they're being very, in terms of the state. I think they're really trying to be careful and cautious because it's so dense here, and there's so many people who do live here, and because we're so much better now than we were back then.
Yeah.
And I think that they're very much priding themselves on that, and really walking on eggshells to figure out what's the best step forward. So, you know, the BAM is really sort of like trying to figure out several models and to be as nimble as possible so that when we get the green light, we can go.
Yeah, move quickly. Yeah. When it's something we've not known in our lifetime. This pandemic, you know. I know I mentioned this a couple times before, maybe on air, but my great grandparents on my mother's side emigrated from Ireland in 1916.
Wow.
Settled in Philadelphia. Both of them died in 1918 in the pandemic, in the Spanish flu pandemic.
Oh my gosh.
And, you know, my grandfather was orphaned as a young boy. And fortunately, he had relatives there, you know.
Oh, okay.
That brought him up. But it's and of course I didn't know. I only knew of them, right? Didn't.
Yeah.
But
wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, and you know, it's frustrating, I think, for people who aren't taking this seriously, you know, who like think it's all a hoax. I mean, I know a few of those people, you know, and that's only kind of stretching all of this out even further, you know.
That's right. Everybody out there, wear a mask, please.
Wear a mask, please, you know. And, you know, even if you don't think it's for you, it's for everybody else. It's for your family, you know, it's for your neighbors. And
yes. And on top of that, go vote.
And vote. Yeah. Yeah. All right. One last question, Elizabeth.
Okay. All right. Besides my family, you're the only other person who calls me Elizabeth.
I know. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who aspires to, you know, be a part of this life that we live?
Yeah. Oh, well, I'd say, you know, kind of what we were talking about, you know, work, just when somebody says, hey, you want to be involved in, you have to clean out this refrigerator, which is going to be on stage, which that's exactly what happened to me during the baby dance. Yeah. And you just go, yeah, okay, I'll do that. Sure. You know, be willing to, if you aspire to be an actor or even a stage manager, or I shouldn't just say even a stage manager. Stage managers are amazing. They're the ones who make the show go. Hello, right. Carly. Thank you. But you know, you can be the technician who's putting the lights up, even if that's not what you want to do. You'll learn a lot from it. You'll be in the room, as they say, where it happens, and you'll learn about that. I don't know how, but I managed to get 3 really great mentors in my life. And if you can get, I don't know how you just manage to get mentors, but, really listen to people who have been in the business. And if they're willing to share, listen to them, and they'll give you probably some good advice. You might not take it or go a different path. Everybody's path is different.
Sure.
And I always say to people who are in the theater, be a mentor. That's important too. Be willing to share. That was one of my favorite things. It's still one of my favorite things, but something that I really got to do at Berkshire Theater that was so wonderful is meeting all the interns. And even though, I was young myself at the beginning of all that, but, showing them, oh, this is what that is. Oh, that's interesting. I never knew. What's company management? I never knew that was even a job.
Right.
So,
I think my son Keller, if I remember right, was an intern there one summer. And I think you were kind of responsible for getting him there.
Yeah, I think he was like a swing tech, as they call it. He did carpentry and he did electrics.
Yeah.
So he did both, but yeah, and it's one of those, and also network. All these friends that you're making when you go, and even if you're putting lights up, introduce yourself to them and make friends, because it's a very small community, and you never know what will lead to a job. That is for sure. All those majestic theater crew. Oh, what is Carly? Oh, we've got to take a moment to go through these lovely. Oh, there's some photos that she wants us to look at.
Yeah, we should buzz through a few more of those. There we go.
I guess. Okay, there's the baby dance.
There's the baby dance.
Yeah.
That was over at the church across the street. Yeah.
Stuart Gamble's right there in the middle, and David Healy, rest his soul, is in that picture.
Yeah.
A champion of the Majestic Theater, basically built those walls inside, but with his bare hands in a week.
Yeah, we saw that one. That's from the Winter's Tale. There's another.
From Winter's Tale. There's Floyd Patterson. I know you had him on.
Yeah.
So there's Jonathan
and Stefan Billups. They were the two kings, right?
They were the two kings. That's right. Stefan's not in that shot, but there's the old buddy. I'm not calling you old, Ben. I'm just saying the first buddy. The first buddy. Oh my God. I'm right next to Mark Franzik, who went to Williston as well. He was a freshman and I was a senior, and we worked backstage on that show.
You guys were that far apart?
Yeah.
In school? I didn't know that.
Yep. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That was one of the summer camps. Cinderella.
Summer page, yeah.
I'm down there in the orange wig, and you're peeking out in the back there next to the young woman in the orange dress. Yes, there you are. That was a fun time at Williston, yeah. Oh, that was from All My Sons. That cast was wonderful. They were so funny, and they did a bang-up presentation at the Majestic Theater. I was the stage manager for that show, and here they are. They crammed into the bathroom that was upstairs in the penthouse rehearsal space.
Yeah.
That was a good one. This is probably one of my favorite shows at the Majestic that I worked on. Again, Janine Haas there in the center. She is a force to be reckoned with. And right behind her, Van Ferrier, another unbelievable actor and such a kind soul. Again, it was very sad to lose Van, rest in peace, but he was a true friend to anybody who he met.
Yeah.
And this cast was hysterical, and it was a very dense and serious show. So it was quite a time. Oh yes.
Lost in Yonkers.
Lost in Yonkers. There's my friend Jason over to I'm on one end and he's on the other end. Yep, the stage manager. And there's Robbie Simpson and Steve Pettit right there in front.
Right.
Yep, Robbie Simpson, actor. You had him on before, I think, and Steve, the PSM now at the theater.
Yep. What, Blues in the Night?
Yep, that was a great show. Mitch Shakur, he did it all for that one. That was so fun. Those ladies, wow, they could sing. Unreal. And yeah, that was Forum. Funny thing happened
on the way to the Forum.
Yeah, good time.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's all I have. Thank you for bringing those. Those are some great archives.
Oh my gosh, it's one of my favorite things is to snap. I mean, a lot of those were cast photos, but snap photos and to remember all the people who, there's definitely some lifelong friends from the Majestic for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here. This is great.
Thank you. And Carly, thank you so much.
Another little comment from Marie Sussin, and she just says, "Great job."
That's lovely, Marie. I know if I got a thumbs up from Marie, I did well. I did well.
Thumbs up from Marie.
Thank you,
All
Marie.
right, Elizabeth.
Yes.
This was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I can't imagine, doing these and not having you involved in it,
Oh, thanks.
So, yeah, that's good. And, hey, we just stay in touch and we'll see what happens, right?
Stay in touch. And, those out there that can donate, please do, keep your local businesses going. There's a lot of individuals out there having trying times, and I know a lot of people are hard up and having a difficult time, but if you are one of those who can, support your local business, support your local artists and theaters for sure.
Yeah, right. Good advice. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you, Danny.
We'll be in touch.
All right.
All right.